These Lincoln pennies look ordinary, but don't let that fool you. The 1998, 2003, D, and 2014 D cents have rare versions collectors quietly search for. One tiny detail, easy to miss, can turn everyday pocket change into something far more valuable. Before you spend your pennies, check them closely. Like and subscribe to uncover more hidden coin secrets. The 1998 Lincoln cent is the kind of penny you've probably spent 100 times without even thinking. It's modern. It's common. It's the type of coin that lives at the bottom of a cup holder, stuck in couch cushions, or rattling around in a jar that nobody ever checks. But here's the truth: collectors know modern pennies can still be treasure. Because even in the late 1990s, the mint was striking coins at insane speed, pushing out billions, and when you run machines that fast, mistakes don't just happen. They escape. And the craziest part is, some of those mistakes look so normal that you can hold one in your hand and never realize you're holding a premium coin. Now let's set the energy level right away. In the world of extreme US error coins, collectors have paid wild money, ranges like $60,450 to $151,350, for the right kind of verified, dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime mint mistake. That's not the average 1998 penny. That's the legend tier stuff. But the reason those numbers matter is because they prove one thing. A 1-cent coin can become a serious trophy when the error is real. So today, we're breaking down the 1998 Lincoln penny. What a normal one is worth, what errors can actually make it valuable, and how to tell the difference between a real mint error and a coin that just got beat up after it left the mint. First, the baseline. A normal 1998 Lincoln cent is copper-plated zinc. It looks copper, but it's not solid copper. It has a zinc core with a thin copper coating. In circulated condition, it's worth 1 cent. Even in nice shape, most are still just common pocket change because so many were made. If you've got a 1998 penny that looks normal, feels normal, and weighs normal, don't let anyone online convince you it's worth hundreds just because it's from the 90s. It's not rare just for existing. The real money starts when something is wrong in a way that only the mint could create. Now, the first category of errors is what I call starter errors. These are real and they're fun, but they're usually not life-changing money. Off-center strikes are a perfect example. An off-center penny happens when the blank planchet isn't sitting correctly in the press. The die comes down, but the design lands partially off the coin. You'll see a blank area where the design didn't strike at all. The value depends on how off-center it is and whether the date is visible. A tiny off-center might be worth a few bucks. A bigger off-center with a full date can jump into the $20 to $100 range. If it's extreme and dramatic, it can go higher. Another common error is a broad strike. That's when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds the metal in place. The penny spreads out wider than normal, the rim looks odd, and the coin can feel slightly different in hand. Broad strikes are collectible, and depending on how strong the error is, they can sell for a decent premium. Now let's talk about something that people love to hunt: doubling. This is where most new collectors get tricked. There's something called mechanical doubling, and it's not the big money doubling. It happens when the die shifts slightly during the strike, and it creates a flat, shelf-like shadow on the letters. Can look doubled, but it's not the same as a true doubled die. A true doubled die is created when the die itself has a doubled image. That means every coin struck from it shows that doubling. And true doubled dies can be valuable, especially if the doubling is strong and visible. On a 1998 penny, you want to check the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. If the letters look like they have a second outline, a second image, and it's clean and consistent, that's when you pay attention. A minor double die might only be a small premium, but a strong double die in high grade can be a serious collector coin. Now here's where 1998 gets really interesting, because 1998 is connected to one of the most famous modern Lincoln cent errors of all time: the wide AM reverse. This is the kind of variety that turns a normal-looking penny into something collectors actively search for in rolls. Here's what it is on the back of a Lincoln Memorial cent. Look at the word America. Focus on the letters A and M in AM. On some pennies, those letters are very close together. On the wide AM variety, there's a noticeable gap between them. That small spacing difference is a huge deal to collectors because it comes from using the wrong reverse design for that year's business strike pennies. Now, not every 1998 penny is a wide AM. Most are normal. But if you find a real wide AM in strong condition, it can be worth far more than 1 cent. In circulated condition, it can still bring good money. In uncirculated condition, it can become a strong collector target. This is one of the best reasons to check 1998 pennies, because you can identify it with your eyes and a simple magnifier. No scale needed. No crazy equipment. Just patience. Now let's get into another category that can bring serious premiums. Errors involving the plating. Remember, a 1998 penny is copper-plated zinc. That copper layer is thin, and sometimes it fails. You can find pennies with peeling plating, blisters, bubbles, or areas where the copper layer didn't bond correctly. Some of these are true mint errors. Some are damage from the environment. The difference matters. A real plating error often looks like it happened during production, not like someone scraped the coin. You might see areas where the copper is missing and the zinc shows through, or strange textures that look like the surface didn't form correctly. These can range from small premiums to strong collector money depending on how dramatic the error is and how nice the coin looks. Now, we enter the category where the hobby gets serious. Wrong planchet errors. This is when a penny is struck on a blank meant for a different coin, or on the wrong metal. These are rare, and when they happen, they create coins that shouldn't exist. A penny struck on the wrong planchet might weigh different, look the wrong color, or have parts of the design missing because the blank wasn't the right size. This is the kind of error that can explode in value, especially when it's verified and in high grade. And that's where that $60,450 to $151,350 energy lives. Not in a normal 1998 penny. Not in a small off-center. But in those extreme, verified mint mistakes that are so rare they become trophy coins. So let's make the difference crystal clear. A normal 1998 penny is worth 1 cent in circulation. Even shiny ones are usually common. A 1998 penny with minor errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, small die cracks, can be worth a premium, usually from a few dollars up to maybe a couple hundred depending on how dramatic it is. A 1998 penny with major varieties like the wide AM reverse, or with serious mint errors like a wrong planchet strike, can jump into real collector money. So here's the hunting strategy. First, check every 1998 penny for the wide AM spacing on America. That's the easiest big win in this year. Second, look for obvious strike errors like off-centers and broad strikes. Third, watch for plating problems that look mint-made, not scraped. Fourth, don't clean the coin. Cleaning kills value fast and destroys the original surface collectors want. And finally, if you think you found something major, don't guess, verify. The difference between a $10 oddity and a high-value error coin is proof. Because the 1998 Lincoln cent is exactly the kind of coin people ignore, but the right one. The one with the right reverse, the right error, the right mistake, can turn a penny into a story worth telling. So check your change, check old jars, check rolls, and don't sleep on modern coins. Sometimes the treasure isn't old. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. Until next time, happy treasure hunting. The 2003 Lincoln cent is the kind of coin most people wouldn't even bother picking up off the ground. It's modern, it's everywhere, and it looks exactly like the pennies that clog up your cup holder and disappear into couch cushions. But here's what collectors understand that the average person never will. Modern coins can be some of the most dangerous coins to ignore. Because when a coin is common, nobody checks it. Nobody saves it. Nobody looks twice. And that's exactly how real mint errors slip through the system and survive long enough to be found. Today we're talking about the 2003 Lincoln penny error coin world, what a normal one is worth, what the real errors look like, and how the right mistake can turn a 1-cent coin into something collectors will pay serious money for. And yes, in the extreme end of the error coin hobby, people have paid jaw-dropping numbers, ranges like $52,640 to $134,780 for the right kind of verified mint. Mistake. That's not the price of a regular 2003 penny. That's the price of the impossible stuff. The kind of coin that makes collectors go quiet when it hits the table. So let's start with the baseline. A normal 2003 Lincoln cent is a copper-plated zinc coin. It looks copper, but inside it's mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. In circulated condition, it's worth 1 cent. That's it. Even though it's over 20 years old now, it's still extremely common. If you have a jar full of them, you're not sitting on a fortune. But here's where it gets interesting. The value changes when the coin is either in extremely high grade, or it has a real mint error. High-grade modern pennies can sell for strong money because collectors build registry sets, and they compete for the cleanest, sharpest examples possible. The problem is, most 2003 pennies have been handled, scratched, or spotted. So finding one that looks like it was struck yesterday can be surprisingly difficult. But the real fun isn't just condition. It's mistakes. The first error type you should know is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank isn't seated correctly in the press. The die comes down and the design lands off to the side, leaving a blank crescent area on the coin. Off-center strikes are popular because they're dramatic and easy to recognize. You don't need to be a professional to see it. The value depends on how far off-center it is and whether the date and mint mark are still visible. A small off-center might be worth $10 to $30. A bigger one with the full date showing can jump into the hundreds. If it's a major off-center, clean, and uncirculated, collectors can pay serious money for it. Next up is the broad strike. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place. That means the coin spreads outward more than it should, giving it a wider look and often a weak or strange rim. Broad strikes are real mint errors, and they're collectible because they look obviously wrong, but still clean and mint-made. Broad-struck pennies aren't usually life-changing money, but they can still bring $20, $50, $100 or more depending on how dramatic they look and how nice the coin is. Now let's talk about clips. A clipped planchet is when the blank was cut incorrectly before striking, leaving a curved piece missing from the edge. It looks like a bite was taken out of the coin. A real clip usually has a smooth curve and sometimes shows weakness opposite the clip because of how the blank sat in the press. Small clips can be worth $10 to $40. Larger, more dramatic clips can be worth $100 or more, especially if the coin is clean and the clip is obvious. Now here's one of the most common areas where modern pennies produce weird-looking coins. Plating errors. Remember, a 2003 D penny is copper-plated zinc. That means the copper is just a thin skin. If something goes wrong with that plating process, the coin can come out looking completely different. You might see blisters, bubbling, peeling, or areas where the zinc shows through like a dull gray patch. Collectors call these plating blisters or plating issues, and they can range from minor to dramatic. Minor plating bubbles usually don't bring huge money, but dramatic plating errors can be very collectible. Some can sell for $10, $20, $50, and if the coin is extreme and eye-catching, it can go higher. The key is this: don't confuse plating errors with environmental damage. A coin that's been burned, corroded, or chemically damaged can look weird too. The difference is that mint-made plating errors often look smooth and built into the surface, not eaten away or rough like damage. Now we get into the category that collectors love because it's bold and obvious. Double strikes. A double strike happens when the coin gets struck, doesn't eject properly, and gets struck again. Sometimes the second strike is rotated. Sometimes it's offset. Sometimes it creates a ghost-like doubling that looks unreal. These can bring serious premiums because they're dramatic. A mild double strike might be $50 to $200. A big rotated double strike can go much higher depending on how clean and impressive it looks. Next is the strike-through error. This happens when grease, debris, or some kind of foreign material gets between the die and the coin during the strike. The result is missing details, strange textures, or parts of the design that look faded or blocked. Small strike-throughs might only be worth a little, but big dramatic ones can be very collectible. Again, condition matters. The cleaner the coin, the more valuable the error becomes. Now let's talk about the errors that push coins into the serious collector zone. Wrong planchet strikes. This is where a penny stops being a penny. A wrong planchet error happens when the penny design is struck on a blank meant for another coin. The coin might be the wrong size, the wrong thickness, the wrong weight, or even the wrong metal. Sometimes the design doesn't fit fully because the planchet is too small. Sometimes it looks like a penny trapped inside another coin's body. Wrong planchet errors are rare, and they're not supposed to escape the mint. But when they do, collectors treat them like trophies. This is also where the biggest numbers in the hobby come from. That $52,640 to $134,780 range? That's the kind of territory people associate with extreme, verified mint errors. Not common errors. Not small clips. The truly rare stuff. Most 2003 D pennies won't ever touch that. But the right wrong planchet strike, the right dramatic multi-strike, or the right impossible mint accident absolutely can put a coin into headline territory. So here's the difference. Crystal clear. A normal 2003 D penny in circulation is worth 1 cent. A normal 2003 D penny in extremely high grade can be worth more. but it needs to be almost flawless. A 2003 D penny with a real mint error can jump from a few dollars to hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on the type and severity of the error. And the extreme end, the verified monsters, that's where the big numbers live, $52,640 to $134,780. So if you want to hunt these like a pro, here's the strategy. Check your 2003 D pennies for obvious strike problems. Look for off-center strikes, clips, broad strikes, and weird rims. Use a magnifier to check for unusual doubling. Watch the surface for plating, blisters, or peeling. And if something looks really strange, weigh it. A digital scale is your best friend. Most importantly, don't clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value fast. If you think you found something serious, compare it to verified examples and consider authentication. Because in this hobby, the difference between a $20 curiosity and a $2,000 collectible is proof. The 2003 D Lincoln cent is one of those coins that hides in plain sight. Most are just spenders, but the right one, with the right mistake, can turn pocket change into a real collector prize. So check your change, check your old jars, and don't ignore the modern pennies. Sometimes the treasure isn't old. Sometimes it's hiding in 1 cent. Until next time, happy treasure hunting. The 2014 D Lincoln cent is the kind of coin most people don't even notice anymore. It's modern. It's everywhere. It's the coin you leave behind on the counter because it's not worth carrying. And because it looks so ordinary, it's one of the easiest coins in America to ignore. But that's exactly why collectors love hunting it. Because modern pennies are produced at insane speed, in massive numbers, with machines running nonstop. And when production runs that hard, mistakes happen. Not once in a while, but constantly. Most mistakes are tiny. Most get caught, but some slip through. And in the world of extreme mint errors, the right accident can turn a 1-cent coin into something worth real money. I'm talking ranges like $40,450 to $112,450 for the most dramatic, verified, once-in-a-lifetime error coins. Not for a normal 2014 D penny, but for the kind of mint mistake that shouldn't exist. So today we're breaking down the 2014 D Lincoln cent errors you should actually care about, how to spot them, and the difference between a regular penny worth 1 cent and an error penny that collectors will fight over. Let's start with the baseline. A normal 2014 D Lincoln cent is a copper-plated zinc coin. It looks copper, but it's not solid copper. It's zinc on the inside with a thin copper skin on the outside. In circulated condition, it's worth face value, 1 cent. Even if you find a handful of them, even if they're clean, they're still common. Now, if you find a 2014 D penny that's truly uncirculated, bright, clean, no major marks, it can be worth a small premium to someone building high-grade sets. But we're still talking small money, not huge. The huge money starts when something is wrong in a way only the mint could have created. And the first rule of error coin hunting is this: damage is not an error. A penny that got scraped, smashed, or eaten by a dryer is not a rare mint error. That's just a penny that had a rough life. A real error has a pattern. It has logic. It looks like it was born wrong. So what errors should you look for on a 2014 D? The first big category is off-center strikes. An off-center strike happens when the blank isn't sitting properly in the press. When the dies come down, the design lands partially off the coin. You'll see a blank crescent area with no design at all. Off-centers are popular because they're easy to see and easy to understand. But value depends on how far off-center it is and whether the date is still visible. A small off-center might be worth $10 to $30. A dramatic off-center with a full date and a clean strike can jump into the hundreds. And here's the thing about modern cents. When an off-center is clean and bright, collectors love it even more because it looks like it just escaped the mint yesterday. Next up is the broad strike. A broad strike happens when the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place. Without that collar, the metal spreads outward, making the coin wider than normal with a weird-looking rim. Broad strikes can range from $20 to $100 or more depending on how dramatic the spread is and how nice the coin looks. They're also a great beginner error because they're hard to fake and very easy to recognize once you've seen one. Now let's talk about clips, also known as clipped planchets. A clipped planchet happens before the coin is struck, when the blank is cut incorrectly and a piece is missing from the edge. It looks like someone took a bite out of the coin. But here's the key. A real clip is smooth and curved, not jagged. A jagged missing chunk usually means damage, not a mint error. Clipped planchets can be worth $15 to $75 depending on size and eye appeal. Bigger clips on clean coins can go higher. Now we move into one of the most common modern penny issues: plating errors. Remember, the 2014 D penny is copper-plated zinc. That copper layer is thin, and sometimes it fails. This is where you can see bubbling, blistering, peeling, or areas where the copper looks weak or missing. Some coins can look patchy, like they have weird discoloration or exposed zinc. Collectors love dramatic plating errors because they're very modern, very visual, and very real. A small plating blister might not be worth much, but a dramatic plating issue, especially one that looks like the copper is peeling off, can bring strong premiums. Depending on how extreme it is, you can see values from $10 up to a few hundred. Now let's talk about a more serious category: missing design details from grease-filled dies. This is called a struck-through grease error. It happens when grease or debris fills part of the die, blocking the design from striking properly. The result is missing letters, weak areas, or parts of the design that look erased. On a 2014 D penny, you might see missing parts of the date, missing letters in Liberty, or parts of the motto looking faded or incomplete. Minor ones can be cheap, but dramatic ones can become collectible, especially if the missing area is obvious and the coin is still in good condition. Now we enter the category that makes collectors stop breathing for a second: double dies. A true double die is not just a shadow or flat doubling. It's real doubling caused by the die itself being doubled during the creation process. This creates a second image in the letters and numbers. On a 2014 D, you want to check areas like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. If you see strong, clean doubling that looks like a second outline, that can be a real variety. The value depends on how strong the doubling is and how rare that variety is. Some double dies are minor and only worth a small premium. But stronger double dies, especially if they're recognized varieties, can bring serious collector attention. Now let's talk about the monster category: wrong planchet errors. This is where legends are made. A wrong planchet penny means the Lincoln cent design was struck on a blank meant for a different coin. Wrong size, wrong metal, wrong weight. It's the kind of mistake that should never happen. These are rare, and when they're real and verified, they can become some of the most valuable modern errors out there. This is the category where the highest-end error market lives, and where numbers like $40,450 to $112,450 start making sense. Not because a 2014 D penny is rare, but because an extreme wrong planchet or freak mint accident is rare. So how do you hunt smart? Here's the simple 2014 D penny strategy. First, check your change and coin jars for anything that looks visually wrong: off-center strikes, clips, broad strikes, missing letters, weird surfaces, or extreme discoloration. Second, use a scale if you can. A normal 2014 D penny weighs about 2.50 grams. If your coin is way off, that's when you slow down and investigate. Third, use a magnet test. A normal penny should not stick. If it sticks, something unusual is happening, either a wrong planchet, an altered coin, or something that needs deeper checking. Fourth, never clean it. Cleaning destroys value fast. And finally, if you think you found something extreme, consider authentication, because the difference between a cool error and a life-changing one is proof. Most 2014 D pennies are worth 1 cent, but the right one, struck wrong on the wrong blank with the right mistake, can be worth far more than anyone would ever expect from a modern penny. So don't ignore the boring years. Sometimes the boring years are exactly where the treasure is hiding. Drop a comment if you found any strange 2014 pennies lately, and until next time, happy treasure hunting.